Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing an audiobook that I listened to, and that was Tamora Carter, Goblin Queen by Jim C. Hines. Because it was an audiobook, I can just kind of show you the library entry for the book that I read, but this is what the cover looks like, and it is again by Jim C. Hines. I picked up this book because I've been reading some more Hines lately. I finished his Janitors of the Post-Apocalypse series and I liked it. I also read Goblin Quest, which I know is maybe one of his more famous ones, and I wanted to try something else by Hines. So this one came up as an option in my library or in my library's Hoopla app, so I decided to give it a listen because I had some time that I was going to be driving around. This book follows Tamora, who is in middle school, I believe is her age range, 12, 13, 14, and she is in a little bit of a difficult position in life. Recently, her best friend Andre, as well as two other individuals, went missing in the town, obviously a scary prospect, and no one knows where they are from. She is living at home with her dad and her brother, who is nonverbal. He communicates with an iPad, and Tamora just has the usual strains of being at that age of 12, 13, 14, figuring out where you fit in, having friends, having changes in life, while also dealing with things like her friend that went missing and different unique challenges in her home. One night after roller derby, which is a sport that she participates in, she runs into some weird creatures behind a dumpster or near a dumpster, and they are goblins. And she has never seen goblins before. This is not a fantasy world, at least it is, but she isn't aware of it. There's goblins, and they seem to be related to maybe this disappearance. The goblins initially are not very keen on Tamora, but she's able to convince them with the power of Pop-Tarts that maybe she can be a friend, and they start to work together when they realize that they have a common enemy and they have common goals. In particular, Tamora is very interested because she believes that they are responsible, or maybe not responsible, but they are knowledgeable of Andre, her missing friend's whereabouts, and using the power of her brother's interest in mythology, her desire to find Andre, and the goblin's knowledge of this world, which is residing behind a tree of one of the girls that she knows. She is going to go to this fantasy world or interact with this fantasy world to recover her friends. So that's kind of a loose outline of the plot. I hope I explained that well, because now I'm going to discuss my thoughts on this audiobook. It was 6 hours and it is a little bit shorter, and that is because the most important part for me is this is middle grade fantasy. Middle grade is obviously, I'm not the demographic for that. I am in my 20s, late 20s, I guess we could say now. So I'm not the demographic that the middle grade would be targeted to. That being said, I don't think there's necessarily an expiration date on something like this, and there's no reason why someone wouldn't be able to enjoy a middle grade fiction book, and it's something I've been wanting to get more into. I feel like similar to YA, there's been a little bit of a resurgence, and this is where I'm just gonna start going off script and just saying things that I feel instead of being backed up by maybe fact. But I feel like when I was in the YA demographic, and I'm gonna start with YA, which was probably from like 2010 to 2015, I graduated high school in 2015, there was a change in the YA section. YA, I feel like, has had a little bit of a boom recently, or maybe in the last decade or so, and it's become more popular. I feel like there's more options, and I don't want to disregard any authors who wrote YA before maybe the 2010, 2011 mark, but I think there was some big outliers, and then the genre kind of got a life of its own. Previously, like the teen section in the old library in my town was like a couple rows, a couple like shelves that just had like these books that kind of fell into that YA genre, but it was just like teen books between, like, they weren't kids, but they weren't adult fiction. And YA has since become really a genre or a category, a demographic of its own with its own unique writing styles and characteristics. I also feel like middle grade fiction has kind of gone through its own little change. I feel like maybe there's better options. I don't know. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of interesting books that come out of that aren't just related to maybe kids, but there's also a lot of interest to me as an adult, where I see the books and I'm like, wait, that looks interesting to me as an adult. So I feel like what I'm trying to say is these genres, I feel like, have just gotten better over time, and I wanted to give it a try. I was willing to try out this one because it was an author that I knew. Like mentioned before, I've read another series by him and another one of his fantasy books. So I felt like going into an author that I knew would be a little better, or at least I wasn't going in blind with an author I didn't know if I liked. I think Hines' humor style and his ability to tackle difficult topics like her unique home situation, some of the challenges her brother faces, and other aspects are still present in this book, but obviously this is written for a little bit of a younger audience series. I felt like at no point when reading this book was there any true danger, because I knew that the audience was written for a middle grade audience. I think this would be a fantastic book. If I was in 6th grade, I would have absolutely loved it. And it's not that this was a bad book necessarily, it's that I felt like the stakes were a little lower and some of the plot points were rather simplified due to the fact that it was middle grade. But I don't want to also fault a book for being written for the audience that it's marketed to. I think this is an excellent example of an author that I like, taking his skills to a different age level. I don't know if that's very common. I feel like because he writes like adult fantasy books, going all the way down to, but moving all the way to a much younger audience with a much different idea of what a good book is might be kind of difficult. And I think it shows his range to be able to do it. Overall, I think this book for me was like a 3-star, but I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is younger who would enjoy it. And I say it's a 3-star for me because, again, I wasn't the target demographic and some of the plot points seemed very simplistic. I never felt like there was any true danger. I felt like things always conveniently happened to keep the story moving along. Some of the dialogue and some of the fantasy elements just, again, felt a little simplistic, but that's because I'm in my 20s. I'm going to find some of this simplistic. Same with me reading YA. Sometimes I find it very simplistic because I'm a little bit older than the target demographic. But again, if I was in 6th grade, I think I would have eaten this book up. And for that reason, I think I would recommend this book to anyone who is in that demographic who is looking to read some fantasy. So Tamora Carter, Goblin Queen, I definitely think if you have an interest in trying middle grade, this could be a great place to start. I wonder too if people who have read it who are adults also found it simplistic, or if they had some of the same complaints or ideas that I had about this book. I would love to hear about that in the comment section below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.